In Dushanbe, the capital of Tajikistan, a moment of high-stakes diplomacy is quietly unfolding. The usually calm streets of this Central Asian capital now serve as the stage for a carefully choreographed visit, one that reflects both the weight of history and the realities of the present. Tajik President Emomali Rakhmon extended a warm welcome to Russian President Vladimir Putin as he arrived for a three-day state visit. The two leaders, walking side by side through the lush avenues of the Iran Botanical Garden, symbolized a relationship that has weathered decades of shifting geopolitics. Their meeting marks not just a bilateral exchange, but also the opening scene of a wider regional dialogue that could shape the balance of power across Central Asia. The informal start to the visit was telling. Cameras captured the two men sharing light conversation as they strolled beneath the garden's autumn-tinged trees before settling into what was officially described as an informal lunch. These early exchanges often serve as an icebreaker in statecraft, a moment to set aside rigid protocols and hint at the personal rapport that can sometimes influence complex negotiations. The optics of cordiality were further enhanced when President Putin presented his host with a painting, a gesture steeped in diplomatic symbolism. Gifts between leaders are rarely chosen at random. They often reflect cultural heritage and historical memory. This particular offering, according to aides, depicted a scene from Tajikistan's rugged mountain landscapes, a subtle nod to shared history and mutual respect. From the gardens, the two leaders moved indoors to continue discussions away from the cameras. While no statements were made at this stage, the world's attention remains fixed on the substance of these private conversations. Analysts suggest that beyond ceremonial pleasantries, the leaders are expected to touch on a range of issues: economic cooperation, regional security, cross-border water management, and the future of multilateral partnerships in a region increasingly courted by global powers. Earlier in the day, President Putin's arrival in Dushanbe was marked by the full formality of a state welcoming ceremony. As his plane touched down on the tarmac, he was greeted by President Rakhmon with a firm handshake, a gesture that signalled continuity in a relationship that has had its share of strain but has never entirely fractured. Also present were senior Kremlin officials, including presidential spokesperson Dmitry Peskov, along with prominent journalists from Russian state media, underscoring Moscow's determination to project control over the narrative surrounding the visit. The trip's ceremonial highlight came when the Russian president laid a wreath at the monument to Ismail Somoni, the 10th century founder of the first Tajik state and a revered national hero. Wreath-laying at this monument has become an expected act for visiting heads of state. But in today's environment, such gestures carry new layers of meaning. It underscored respect for Tajik sovereignty while also affirming Moscow's historic role as a partner and, at times, patron of the country's security and development. The state visit takes place just ahead of a regional summit that will bring together the leaders of the 5 Central Asian republics: Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan and Tajikistan, as well as Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev. This is particularly significant because relations between Moscow and Baku have cooled in recent months amid disagreements over energy transit corridors, border security, and the wider strategic balance in the Caucasus. Dushanbe, with its relatively neutral posture, is now being positioned as a stage for quiet but consequential diplomacy.
От Таджикистана, от Китая. Хорошее издание, потом посмотрим, не спеши. Хорошо? Спасибо. Протокол. Потом.
For Tajikistan, the summit offers both challenges and opportunities. As one of the smaller and less economically powerful of the post-Soviet republics, it still relies heavily on Russian security guarantees and economic links, particularly the remittances sent home by Tajik migrant workers in Russia. Yet, at the same time, Tajikistan is keen to broaden its international partnerships, balancing historical ties with Moscow against growing investment and infrastructure support from Beijing and outreach from the European Union. For Russia, the visit is more than symbolic. At a time when Moscow faces growing international isolation and a shifting security environment, maintaining strong ties with its southern neighbours is crucial. Central Asia has long been part of what the Kremlin calls its near abroad, a zone of influence that provides strategic depth and access to critical energy and transport routes. By engaging with both Tajikistan and other regional players during this visit, Putin signals that Russia intends to remain a decisive player in the region despite external pressures. The human dimension of these diplomatic efforts should not be overlooked. Many Tajiks still view Russia as a historic partner that has helped stabilize the region after the turbulent 1990s and Tajikistan's own civil war. Yet there is also a younger generation increasingly aware of alternative economic and cultural connections from Turkey to the Gulf and East Asia. The summit and this visit will thus test the Kremlin's ability to renew old alliances in a context where historical sentiment alone no longer guarantees influence. Regional analysts point out that the timing of the visit is particularly significant. The cooling of ties between Moscow and Baku has opened a diplomatic gap that Central Asian leaders are keen to address. They are aware that unresolved tensions between Russia and Azerbaijan could affect trade, security cooperation, and even water energy management in the broader Caspian region. Tajikistan's willingness to host both Putin and Aliyev suggests a desire to position itself as a constructive intermediary. Beyond bilateral and regional concerns, the meetings in Dushanbe carry implications for international actors. China's Belt and Road investments have transformed the economic landscape of Central Asia, offering infrastructure development that Russia cannot easily match. Meanwhile, Western nations have sought to deepen engagement with Central Asian republics on energy security, counterterrorism, and climate resilience. In this competitive environment, the optics of Putin's reception in Dushanbe, from the warm handshake to the solemn wreath-laying, are carefully curated to send a message of relevance and continued authority. The state visit also highlights the interplay between ceremony and strategy in modern diplomacy. Every image, the walk through the gardens, the exchange of gifts, the military honor guard at the airport, the moment of reflection at the Somoni monument is designed to resonate both domestically and abroad. Such moments serve as reminders that politics is as much about narrative as it is about policy. As the summit progresses over the next 2 days, attention will shift from these symbolic gestures to the closed-door meetings where agreements are discussed and decisions are made. Questions remain about whether Russia can adapt to the evolving priorities of Central Asian states, which increasingly seek diversified partnerships rather than exclusive alignments. Similarly, the region's leaders will have to weigh the benefits of close ties with Moscow against the risks of overdependence at a time when geopolitical rivalries are sharpening. For the people of Tajikistan, the visit brings both hope and skepticism. Hope that the renewed engagement might yield tangible benefits in trade, infrastructure, and security cooperation. Skepticism because past promises have often been slow to materialize, and the region's challenges, from border security to water scarcity, remain acute.
Российская советская классика. Первое.
As dusk settles over Dushanbe, the spotlight shifts from the ceremonial gardens and the iconic Somoni monument to the summit halls where realpolitik will guide the conversations. For Tajikistan, hosting this high-profile gathering underscores its relevance as more than just a peripheral player in regional affairs. For Russia, the visit serves as a platform to demonstrate persistence in maintaining regional influence. And for the international community, the unfolding meetings in Dushanbe offer a revealing glimpse into the recalibration of alliances and rivalries in the heart of Eurasia. In the coming days, the outcomes of this summit, whether they bring closer regional cooperation or highlight lingering divisions, will serve as a measure of both Russia's diplomatic reach and Central Asia's collective willingness to chart a common path forward. The images of today's ceremonies will soon give way to the subtler but no less consequential language of joint communiques and bilateral agreements. The meeting between Presidents Putin and Rakhmon thus stands as more than a formality. It represents a test of the durability of historical ties in a rapidly evolving geopolitical environment. a test whose results will resonate well beyond the serene paths of the Iran Botanical Garden.
От Таджикистана, от Китая.
Хорошее издание, потом посмотрим, не спеши.
Хорошо.
Спасибо.
Протокол. Потом.
Российская, советская классика. Первое.
Сейчас как никогда нужно.
Арестик был!